Hartville, a picturesque rural town in the United States, hid within its depths stories of poverty and despair. It was there that Lydia and Laura grew up, physically identical twins, but with completely different souls. Lydia, always kind and gentle, was the darling of the neighbors and teachers. Her determination and intelligence were like beacons of hope amidst the desolation of life in Hartville. Laura, on the other hand, was impulsive and arrogant. Her bold and direct personality often got her into trouble. However, that didn't stop her from getting a job at the local bakery after finishing high school. When the letter from Boston University arrived, the modest home of the twins was filled with shouts of joy. Lydia had been accepted with a full scholarship. "I knew you would make it," Lydia shouted her proud mother. "You've always been so smart, so determined." As the house buzzed with happiness, Laura watched the scene with a forced smile. "Congratulations, Lydia," she said, her cold eyes concealing the flame of envy burning within her. Lydia, blissfully unaware of her sister's envy, thanked her. "Thank you, Laura, but you know this wouldn't have happened without your support. It was always you who motivated me to fight for my dreams." Lydia's sincere response only fueled Laura's envy even more. In that moment, a seed of resentment was planted in her heart, which would later reveal itself with devastating consequences. But that night, the family fell asleep under the same roof, unaware of the turmoil that was about to turn their lives upside down. Boston University was a completely new world for Lydia, full of new experiences and challenges. Amidst this whirlwind of novelty, one gentle smile stood out: Saul Bentley, the son of one of the most powerful families in New England. Saul was the dream of any girl. However, it was Lydia who caught his attention. Their first encounter took place in the library. Lydia, completely absorbed in her books, didn't notice Saul's presence until he approached and asked about the subject she was studying. Her charm lay not in her appearance, but in her sharp mind and a sparkle in her eyes when she talked about her aspirations. To Saul, she was like a breath of fresh air in his structured and predictable life. Soon, they became inseparable. The differences in their background seemed to fade away when they were together. Saul introduced Lydia to his family, and to her surprise, the Bentleys welcomed her with open arms. "I'm so happy for you," Saul said, his mother, Mrs. Bentley, adding after a dinner, "Lydia is a lovely young woman. We adore her." "I knew you would like her, Mom," Saul said, smiling. "She's special." Meanwhile, in Hartville, Laura worked at the bakery, but her thoughts were with her sister. Despite the distance between them, Laura couldn't help but feel overshadowed by her sister's presence. Lydia and Saul made plans for a future together, deeply in love, unaware that this happiness would be threatened by someone they least expected. Lydia's visit to Hartville, accompanied by Saul, was a major event in the small town. Saul, with his charming smile and polished manners, quickly won over Lydia's parents, who felt relief to see their daughter loved by someone so good and from such a respectable family. But as the house filled with joy, Laura watched from a distance, her eyes filled with a cold gleam. Seeing Lydia, the sister she had always considered inferior, receiving so much love and attention, especially from someone like Saul, was unbearable. Laura felt like something inside her was twisting. She knew she had to act. Laura wasn't one to stand idly by and watch life pass her by. Her ally in this wicked plan would be Elliot, her cousin, a young man with a cunning gaze and a questionable character, as ambitious and manipulative as she was. On a cold night, Laura went to Elliot's house with determination and envy burning in her eyes. She laid out her plan. They would ruin Lydia's happiness, no matter the cost. "Are you sure about this, Laura?" Elliot asked, staring at her intently. "This could go very wrong." Laura smiled, her eyes dangerously gleaming. "I've never been more certain of anything in my life, Elliot. Lydia had everything she wanted. Now, it's my turn." And so, a dangerous alliance was formed, an alliance that would threaten Lydia's happiness and freedom. Elliot, following Laura's Machiavellian plan, obtained illicit substances from dubious contacts around town. He and Laura were extremely careful as they planted the drugs in Lydia's suitcase, ensuring that she wouldn't suspect anything. The day of Lydia's trip arrived, and as she bid farewell to her parents with a tight hug and promised to write every day, Laura and Elliot watched from a distance, knowing that in a few hours, Lydia's life would be destroyed. And so, it happened. Lydia, innocent and unaware of the nefarious plan, was arrested at the airport. The shock and confusion she felt in that moment were indescribable, but the worst was yet to come. In addition to planting the drugs, Laura and Elliot had fabricated a series of false evidence, messages and calls on Lydia's phone indicating her involvement in trafficking. The Bentleys, Saul's family, upon receiving the news, felt betrayed and, not wanting to tarnish their name in a scandal, encouraged Saul to distance himself from Lydia. Saul, though reluctant, succumbed to the family's pressure and broke up with Lydia. While Lydia fought against the injustice within the bleak prison cell, Laura, her physically identical twin sister but with a heart poisoned by envy, used the physical resemblance to Lydia as her greatest weapon. She began manipulating Saul, Lydia's former love. Laura presented herself to Saul as the unsuspecting victim of Lydia's devastating betrayal. Every encounter, every conversation was skillfully orchestrated to emphasize her own innocence and, at the same time, her disappointment with Lydia. "I still can't believe it, Saul," she would say, her eyes filled with forced tears. "Lydia, my own sister." And with that innocent face, she deceived us all. Her words echoed in Saul's broken heart. Lydia's face reflected in Laura was a constant reminder of his lost love and the pain of betrayal. Helpless and emotionally vulnerable, Saul sought comfort in Laura. Her words, though poisoned with lies, were a balm to his pain. "She deceived us, Saul," Laura continued, her voice soft and filled with false sorrow. "But we're in this together, and together we can overcome it." And so, the seed of a new romance was subtly planted, a romance born out of lies and betrayal. But to Saul, in that moment, it seemed like the only relief for his shattered heart. With a heavy heart and a mind in turmoil, Lydia was led to her prison cell. The environment was gloomy and desolate. The cold concrete walls echoed with the echoes of the sad stories of those who came before her. She was introduced to her cellmate, Rebecca Lindsay, an elderly woman whose eyes, though tired, gleamed with fierce intensity. Rebecca was no ordinary prisoner. She was an heiress, once richly endowed but now just another inmate in the penal system. Like Lydia, she was a victim of a conspiracy and unjustly accused of a heinous crime she never committed, a brutal murder. Strangely, Lydia found some comfort in Rebecca. Perhaps it was the way Rebecca treated her with genuine kindness, or perhaps it was their shared family history that created a unique bond between them. Lydia realized, as she listened to Rebecca's story, that she was not alone in her ordeal. One night, while in the darkness of the cell, Rebecca decided to share a secret with Lydia, a secret she had carried as a burden for years. She whispered to Lydia about a hiding place, a secret stash of jewels she had hidden years ago that had never been discovered or confiscated. "Lydia," Rebecca began with a hoarse but firm voice, "in a house in a town where I grew up, there is a hidden treasure. Jewels, jewels that could buy your freedom." Lydia, still shaken by the chaos her life had become, felt a glimmer of hope, a spark amidst the darkness of the prison. There was a plan, a potential path to freedom. She clung to that hope, determined to fight. "Thank you, Rebecca," Lydia whispered, her eyes meeting Rebecca's in the darkness. "I promise I won't give up." While Laura assumed her usurped role as the lady of the Bentley mansion in Boston, an aura of opulence and wealth filled her new world. Now, she was Saul's wife, and as such, she lived a life of extravagant luxury, something the simple girl from Hartville could never have imagined. In the grand mansion, she reigned surrounded by servants, luxury artifacts, and a breathtaking view of the city skyline. Laura, in her new skin, was the center of attention, the queen of a court that should never have been hers. She transformed the lives of everyone around her, bringing her family and Elliot to the metropolis, bathing them in the wealth that Lydia was meant to enjoy. Her life now was filled with dazzling parties, extravagant shopping sprees, and generous charitable donations. All these actions were calculated attempts to maintain and enhance her social image. After all, she was the charitable Laura Bentley, now a true lady of high society. Elliot, her accomplice in all the dirty schemes, became her right-hand man. He was always there, helping Laura maintain her facade of a generous and compassionate woman. Yet, Laura, under her veil of goodness, was nothing more than the same manipulative and envious woman she had always been. However, as time passed and her lavish life continued, Laura began to let her guard down. Small cracks in her perfectly constructed mask began to appear. The arrogance and vanity she tried to hide became increasingly evident, and even her own parents, who now lived with her in Boston, started to notice the change. They wondered if the incident with Lydia had truly been an accident or something more sinister. Saul, still intoxicated by his love for Laura, began to realize that the woman he fell in love with was becoming a stranger. He started noticing subtleties in her personality that seemed out of place. Laura's mask was slowly crumbling, and the people around her began to sense that something was terribly wrong. After 5 long and harsh years, Lydia is finally released on parole. She is a changed woman, tougher and more resilient, but also more determined to clear her name and seek revenge against Laura. She follows the instructions given by Rebecca and locates the hidden jewels in an old, worn-down house in a nearby town. With the jewels in her hands, Lydia has enough money to hire a private detective, a sharp-witted man named Jack Preston. Jack is known for his ability to unravel complex mysteries, and Lydia trusts him to uncover the truth. Lydia tells Jack her entire story, from the trap set by Laura and Elliot to Saul's betrayal. Jack listens attentively, his analytical and penetrating gaze missing no detail. He agrees to help Lydia uncover the truth and promises to do everything in his power to clear her name. With a plan in motion and a new ally by her side, hope begins to rekindle in Lydia's heart. Still, she knows that the journey ahead will be difficult and dangerous. But Lydia is determined. She will do whatever it takes to expose Laura and prove her innocence. Lydia, it's a complex puzzle, but I think we're starting to find some key pieces, Jack said as he flipped through police reports and evidence photos. This is a transcript of a phone call between Elliot and an unknown number, he said, pointing to a document. The call was made just before your trip. He mentions a gift that will be delivered in your suitcase. Lydia felt a chill run down her spine. They were careful, I have to admit, Jack nodded. Yes, they were, but no one is perfect. Everyone leaves traces. They spent hours that night unraveling the trail of evidence that Laura and Elliot had left behind. They connected dots, found connections, and slowly the truth began to emerge. These are surveillance footage from a store near your old building, Jack said, showing Lydia the video footage. Look, that's Laura, and that's Elliot leaving your building on the day you were arrested. Lydia swallowed hard, the stark truth before her eyes. It was solid evidence that Laura and Elliot had planned it all. A solitary tear rolled down her face. They will pay for this, Lydia said, her voice low and determined. Jack nodded, his expression serious. I'm with you, Lydia. Let's make the truth known. The revelation of the whole truth would come at a perfect occasion, a party at Saul's mansion. Saul's mansion was resplendent, music filled the air, and people laughed and danced, completely unaware of the drama about to unfold. Lydia entered, an almost ghostly figure. The music seemed to fade, the noise of the party dissipating as they recognized Lydia. Laura turned, and upon seeing her sister, her pale face contorted in shock and anger. What is she doing here? She's a criminal, a felon, she shouted, pointing at Lydia. Before Lydia could say anything, the door opened and two police officers entered. "Laura Smith and Elliot Thompson, you are under arrest for fraud and conspiracy," one of them said, their words echoing in the silent room. "Laura, Elliot, you've done enough," Lydia said, her voice trembling but firm. "You can't hurt me or anyone else anymore." She then revealed everything: the trap, the plan, the evidence. Laura and Elliot were handcuffed and led out of the mansion, leaving behind a room full of shocked guests. Chapter 10: Family Dilemma. With the house now silent, Lydia found herself staring at where Laura had been minutes ago. She felt empty, sad. She approached where Laura was being taken away by the police. "Why?" Lydia asked her, her words barely audible. "Why so much malice, Laura?" Laura looked at Lydia, her eyes filled with resentment. "You always had everything," she said, "the college, the wealthy boyfriend, everything. And I had nothing. I just wanted a little of what you had." Lydia was stunned. Laura's envy had led her down a destructive path, a road that could only lead to her own ruin. Lydia felt a profound sadness, not for Laura, but for the sister she thought she knew. In the silence of the mansion, only Lydia and Saul remained. Both were lost in their thoughts, trying to comprehend the storm of emotions and revelations from the night. Saul finally broke the silence. "Lydia," he began, his voice hoarse, "I have no words to express how sorry I am for doubting you, for being manipulated and believing in Laura." He looked tormented, his eyes reflecting deep regret. Lydia looked at him, her own eyes shining with unshed tears. "Saul," she said softly, "you're not the only one to blame here. Laura and Elliot deceived all of us. It wasn't your fault." There was a moment of silence. Then Saul said, "Lydia, I love you. I always have. I was a fool to let Laura come between us. I beg for your forgiveness." Lydia looked at him, her heart aching for the pain on his face. "I forgive you, Saul," she said, her voice just a whisper, "but for now, we need time. We need to heal. I need to know that I can trust you again, that I can open up without fear of being hurt again." Saul nodded, understanding Lydia's need for space and time. They knew the path to reconciliation wouldn't be easy, but they were willing to tread that road because, in the end, they still loved each other. Days after the scandal, Lydia visited Rebecca in prison, bringing news and promises with her. They sat in the prison yard, enveloped in a constant noise of conversations around them. "Rebecca," Lydia began, her face serious, "I can't thank you enough for what you did for me. You gave me a chance to fight, to seek justice." Rebecca smiled sadly. "Lydia, you've given me something to believe in again. You've given me hope." Lydia held Rebecca's hand, looking directly into her eyes. "Now it's my turn to help you," she declared. "We'll prove your innocence, Rebecca. No one else will suffer like we did." In the peaceful church of the small village of Hartville, Lydia and Saul stood before the altar, their eyes shining with love and silent promises. Lydia's simple dress, elegantly designed with simplicity, contrasted with Saul's sophisticated attire from his past. But never had he looked happier. "Saul," Lydia began, her voice soft and firm, "I love you despite everything we've been through. I love you." Saul smiled, holding Lydia's hands in his. "Lydia, I have always loved you, even when I lost you. I loved you, and I will love you until the end of my days." The two exchanged vows, promising each other love, loyalty, and understanding. The words were simple, but the sincerity behind them was unquestionable. They kissed amidst the applause of the small congregation, heralding the beginning of a new life together. A few months after the ceremony, Rebecca, who had become a mother figure to Lydia, passed away peacefully in her sleep. It was a hard blow for Lydia, but the love and support of Saul helped her cope with the loss. Rebecca had made Lydia her primary heir, leaving her a significant fortune and a strong sense of responsibility. Lydia decided to use the inheritance to help others, just as Rebecca had helped her. She expanded the foundation she had created with Rebecca, dedicating herself to assisting those wrongfully convicted. Rebecca's legacy and Lydia's dedication transformed the foundation into a powerful force in the fight against injustice. In the end, Lydia and Saul managed to build a life together marked not only by love, but also by strength, resilience, and a dedication to making the world a better place. Their story was proof that even in the most challenging circumstances, love and justice could prevail. The foundation, now known as the Rebecca Lindsay Foundation, grew in influence and impact. Lydia and Saul worked tirelessly, investing resources, time, and energy to ensure that people wouldn't suffer the same injustice that Lydia and Rebecca had endured. Lydia was sitting at her desk when Saul entered, holding a newspaper. "Look, Lydia, front page news," he said with a big smile on his face. The headline read, "The Rebecca Lindsay Foundation brings hope to the wrong." Lydia smiled at Saul. "That's all thanks to Rebecca, and now we're just continuing her legacy." Saul hugged her from behind, resting his chin on her shoulder. "And we will continue to do so, Lydia, because it's the right thing to do, because it's what Rebecca would have wanted." And so, the foundation became an unstoppable force for justice, helping countless people find the redemption they longed for. The dawn light illuminated the mansion where Saul and Lydia now lived. It was a peaceful home filled with love and joy. Lydia woke up early, as always, with Saul still sleeping beside her. Looking at him, Lydia smiled, her heart filled with love for her husband. They had been through so much, overcome so many obstacles, but they were stronger and more in love than ever. She leaned down to gently kiss his forehead before getting up, allowing Saul to sleep a little longer. With a cup of coffee in hand, Lydia sat on the porch, admiring the sunlight that bathed the vast garden. Thinking of everything they had been through, Lydia felt grateful for Saul, for the justice they finally achieved, and for the lessons life had taught her. As the sun rose, Lydia knew that no matter what the future held, they were ready to face any challenges, to continue fighting for justice, and to love each other unconditionally. "We are ready, Rebecca," Lydia whispered to the wind. And with that thought, she embraced the new day, ready for the future that awaited her. Thank you for joining us today on Deep Stories. Be sure to like and subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on our next video.